Hello everybody. Today we are looking at the standard form of a quadratic equation and we're going to practice factoring a quadratic equation. So this form that we have right here, ax squared plus bx plus c, that is the standard form of the quadratic equation. So for a quadratic function, when we do a graph, a is going to mean something, B is also going to be important, and C will mean something. Each of those values are important, and then I have X values. These are going to be my input values, which will yield Y values. And when we see this equation set to equal 0, that is where we will find our zeros of the equation, and we'll talk about that later. But just to start, we're looking at standard form, again, ax squared plus bx plus c. When I see the x squared, that's how I know it's a quadratic equation. Now, here I have a quadratic equation, x squared plus 3x plus 2. I know you will appreciate the high-tech penmanship here. And what we want to do is we want to factor this quadratic equation into the factored form. So we want to go from standard form, which is what you see here, ax squared plus bx plus c, and I want to take that and convert it or change it into the factored form. Okay, so I'm going to get my pen here. So for my factored form, I'm going to have two sets of parentheses here, okay? And what it means is whatever I put in here, when I distribute and use the FOIL method, I will get x squared plus 3x plus 2. Okay, so since the a value here is 1, we just understand that there's a 1 in front of that x squared. When the a value is 1, then I know that this is x, and I know that this is x. Okay, and when I see that this is a plus, I have a positive c value, then I know that this number right here and this number right here have to both have a positive sign or a negative sign to give me a product that's positive 2. And since this is positive, since my b value here is positive, then I'm going to assume that this is positive and this is positive. Okay? Now, I'm going to look at this number 2 and think about just working with basic integers here. My most likely case is that it would be 1 times 2 to give me a value of 2. But I need to check and see when I apply the FOIL method, is this going to work? Is it going to yield 3x? So here, if I multiply the inner, which is I in the FOIL method, I get x, 1x is x. And when I multiply my outer, 2 times x, I get 2x. So 2x plus 1x gives me 3x, and I know that's correct. Let's look at this one. Standard form, x squared plus 3x minus 18. So again, since my a value, the number in front of x squared here, is just a 1, then that's a pretty easy one. That gets more complicated when we have other a values. But just to start, I know that I have x and x. Okay? Now, looking at this sign, this c value is a negative. So that I already know then that one of these is plus and one of these is negative, because that's the way that I get a product that is negative, is if one of these is positive and one of these is negative. Okay? And so then I can start thinking, what two numbers would give me a product of 18? It might be 1 and 18, right? It might be 9 and 2. That would give me a product of 18. Also 3 and 6. All right, so I don't even really have to write that out. I could do this in my head and think, okay, all of these, when one is negative, one's positive, would give me a product of negative 18. But right here, I need to have positive 3x. So the difference between these two is 17 units. The difference here is 7 units. The difference here is 3 units. And that's what I need. I need a difference of the positive 3. So if I say -6, then I would get -3 here. So I know I need the positive 6 and the -3. All right, so now I'm going to check myself. X times x is x squared. Do my outer first in the FOIL method. -3 times x is -3x. Inner, positive 6 times x is positive 6x. So if I have -3x, pretend that's a 3, plus 6x, right? Then it yields overall positive 3x. And I know that this was right. One more for this video. Standard form, ax squared plus bx plus c, we say, but in this case, my b value and my c value are negatives this time. Okay. Since my a value, that number in front of x squared, is just a 1, then I know I have x and x. Okay. Now, this is negative, so my product of this number and this number is negative. So again, I know one of these is going to be a positive sign, and one of these is going to be a negative sign. Okay. So think about my different options here. What integers are factors of 8, right? That's pretty much what I'm looking at. So 8 and 1 have a difference of 7. 2 and 4, there's a difference there of 2 units. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that difference of 2 units. But this is -2. So that means I have to have this -4 and +2, because positive 2x and -4x will give me -2 here. And then positive 2 times -4 gives me -8. So to review the steps, if I have standard form and I'm going to factor this, I need to first look at my values here. Is it just x times x? Or like if there was a 2 there, then there would have to be a 2 in front of one of these. Then I like to look at the sign here and know if this is going to be plus and plus, negative and negative, positive and negative. And then I think about my different numbers that I could put here. What are the different numbers I could put here for my lasts that would give me a product for that C value that I need? And once I kind of think about that, then I can think, well, which one is going to work, right? Which one of these is going to work so that when I have my outers and my inners, I get this overall value here that I'm looking for. Once I fill all that out, figure it out, then I would go back and check. So if I was going to check this one, use my FOIL method. So first of all, I'm going to say x times x, because those are my firsts. X times x, any number times itself, is that number squared. Okay, then I'm going to do my outer. So x times 4, going to have a lot of lines right here, right? So x times 4 is 4x. Then I do my inner, 2 times x. Everybody see that? There's my inner. So that's a positive 2x. And then finally in the FOIL method, I had my first, then my outers, then my inners, and L stands for my last. So last value in each set. So this is positive 2 times -4 gives me my -8. And if I combined these like terms here, okay, oh, this is supposed to be a negative, right? If I combine my like terms, and I'm careful with my signs, then I would get -2x here. Okay, so I'm actually glad that I made this mistake with my writing, just to remind all of us to be really, really careful with the signs. If this was multiple choice, it would probably have -2x as an option and positive 2x as an option. So you'd have to be real careful when you're multiplying each thing. And I was going too fast, so I wasn't very careful. But if this is -4x plus 2x. That's how I get the negative 2x there. And then finally my negative 8. So that is how you go from standard form of a quadratic equation. Again, if I looked at a standard form, this is my standard form right here, okay? And if I needed to take that and factor out to get my factored form, that's how I would do that. Hope that helps.